Whether you're a beginner or an experienced spreadsheet user, understanding if statements is critical to your skill as a data analyst. We are continuing our Spreadsheet Fundamentals series by covering if statements today on Art Science. Hey there, I'm Kevin Hartman, Associate Professor at the University of Notre Dame and founder of the Art+Science Analytics Institute, where our mission is to make you a better analyst. In today's video, we will look at the very flexible and very powerful if statement inside of spreadsheets. We're going to cover the basic command. We'll also look at some of the variations as well, like if or, nested ifs, CountIF, SumIF. So by the end of this video, you'll feel like you've got a really good comprehension and understanding of the if function inside of spreadsheets. Like every video in this Spreadsheet Fundamentals series, you'll find links in the description below to a step-by-step guide, as well as data so you can practice this function and really feel like you're mastering it. The if function is one of Spreadsheet's most powerful tools. It effectively conducts a logical test on a cell and returns one value if that test is true, another value if that test is not. If functions can be used for conditional formatting, data validation, workflow automation. There's all sorts of reasons why we might use if statements inside of a spreadsheet. In this video, like before, I'll be demoing in Google Sheets, but these commands are the same ones you would use in Excel. Let's get into the spreadsheet and get going. So here I am in my transaction log. This is a transaction log for a school that has live instruction courses, it has online courses, and then it has courses where it's a hybrid of both of those things together. I've got my customer ID, the unique identifier for each customer, order ID, the unique identifier for each transaction. I've got the date of that transaction, the purchase they made, in 3 columns, month, day, and year, and how much they spent on that class. And then I've got this problematic class type column, which is supposed to designate whether that was a live class, whether that was an online class, or whether that was one that was both. The problem with this column for me is that there's a whole bunch of different values thrown in here that all mean the same thing. So in a previous video, we showed you how you could clean that up and standardize that through a number of steps. We are going to harness the power of the if statement to do that in a rather elegant formula, but a pretty sophisticated formula, but just do it in one simple step. The first thing I'm going to do is go back to my old friend unique and apply that on the class type column, just so I see all the different variations that are there. And there are a lot of them. I've got live class, I've got online with a lowercase o and online with an uppercase O. I've got all these different variations that really mean the same thing. And again, I want to get it standardized to just 3 different inputs. So in the column next to class type, I'm going to type in a new column header called class type standardize. And let's first just get used to what if statements are. The if statement will do a logical test on a cell that I pointed to. So I'm going to say, here is a cell I want you to look at. If this cell meets this criteria, do this. If it doesn't, do that. So for an example here, the logical expression that I'm going to enter is that if G2 equals, and then I'm looking for text, say live, then with a column to set me to the next command, I'm going to return a value of, in quotation marks, live. That's the label that I want. If not, well, return a 0. So what that has done now, if I copy that all the way down, that command is looking to the cells next to it, is looking for the word live. If it finds it, it says, yep, this course was live. If it was something else, it returns a 0. So now, is that helpful? Well, it does tell me which ones had the designation of live, but it's not picking up all the live classes because I don't see live class, and all the other things are just zeros. So it's, while it's interesting, it's not super helpful. I can expand the logical expression to capture a couple different values, and in this case, if I first just clear out this column, we start over, class type, let's call this one or, I can use the same if statement, but this time add an or at the beginning and have it look to G2, and if that equals live, but also if G2 equals live class, which are the 2 designations of live, and close the parentheses there, I can have it change that label to live. Otherwise, give me that 0. So now, copying this down, this is a little better. You can see I find instances where it said was designated as live class. That's now giving me the label of live. So I'm getting closer to standardizing these, but all the other designations of live plus online, online class, both, all those other ones, I'm not capturing. Here is where we can start to nest if statements inside of if statements to really expand the functionality. So clearing this table, this column out again and starting over, class underscore type, we're going to call this nested. Now this is a pretty large formula, so I'm going to expand the size of my formula bar just so we can fit it all in. What I'm going to do is use a combination of if and ors, but then put them inside of one another, as you will see. So to start, if or G2 equals live was one designation, or if G2 equals live class, close the parentheses, go ahead and return for me a designation of live. But now, instead of saying if not, do 0, I'm going to have it trigger another if statement. So if or G2 equals, one was online class, or if G2 equals online, the lowercase o, or if G2 equals online, an uppercase, capital O, all of that, call that online. So now I'm going to continue this function on so that we capture the hybrid courses as well. Let me just try to type that in really quickly and create some additional space here. Now with all that functionality completed, I'm capturing every single value that I had in that list of uniques. I'm giving them all a label by telling this final line to call these courses both. And if it doesn't meet any of those criteria, if there's something that I've missed along the way, let's just have it put in a value of unknown. So that way, if my formula misses any of the values that I have, it's going to trigger an unknown and I'll know that I had some problem there. So that's a pretty sophisticated formula for sure, but it should now check for me every single value in my list and return one of 3 variables to that class type. So entering it here, copying it all the way down. And now the way I'm going to test this is again by using another unique command. On this new column, and there I go. I've got live, both, and online. So in a previous video, it took us several steps to go through and use several different commands to clean and standardize these data. I'm able to do that in one single, again, pretty complicated, although pretty elegant formula that looks through all the different values and returns a standardized label for each of them. Now that I've got my values standardized around the 3 that I want, I can use some additional if statements. I can do some counts if, I can do some sums ifs. What this does is it looks for certain values and either counts those number or it sums up a value if that criteria is met. Let me show you what I mean. Let's say that I've got now my 3 types of classes, live, both, and online. What I want to know is how many classes that were purchased were in each category. Well, here's where the CountIF comes in. So let's call this column count class type. The command is simply CountIF, and then it's going to ask me for the range that it wants to count in. I want to count in this new column of class type nested. And the criteria equals this idea of live. And there you go. 696 of them met that criteria. I will go ahead in the autofill, and then I'm going to clear out these rows it didn't really need. So I've got now in each of these columns, each of these formulas, they're looking back to one of my 3 class types, counting up every single time that type of class type shows up in the list. I've got 696 in live, 725 in both, and 737 of online. I can also use the final if statement that we'll cover tonight, that SumIF, to figure out how much money was spent on each of these class types. So let's call this sum class type. The command here is SumIF, looking again for a range. So I'm going to ask it to go to this class type nested. The criteria I'm going to ask it to look for is this idea of live. But what I want it to sum is the spend. And so what this is going to do is look for, anytime it sees the word live in the class type, it's going to add up the amount of money, the spend for that class type. And when I close this off, it calculates everything. I'm going to go ahead and autofill, clean out. And so now I have $208,000 spent on live. If I go down to the next formula, this one is looking for both the hybrid online and live classes. This final one is looking for the online courses only. So what I've done through these simple if statements are consolidate a whole messy variable of class type, and then counted the occurrence of those new standardized class types, and then summed up the value that the school earned from each type. So in those simple commands using that powerful if statement, I've produced a report that standardizes, counts, and sums up the revenue generated by each of those class types. Thanks again for watching. If you haven't already, please take a moment and subscribe to this channel, give us a like, and forward this video on to anyone who you think is interested in data analytics topics. Every single week, we are delving deep into interesting and important data analytics topics. We'd love to have you around for that journey. Look for our next video in the Spreadsheet Fundamentals series, where we'll be talking about concatenate and the left, mid, right command. So you'll see how we combine text using spreadsheets, as well as parse text apart using spreadsheet commands there too. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you in the next video.